In this video, we're looking at multiplying and dividing algebraic fractions. So the learning intention is that by the end of this, you'll be able to multiply and divide fractions using like terms and common factors. Firstly, we'll look at multiplication. So the multiplication of two or more fractions, we multiply the numerators to form the new numerator, and we also multiply the denominator to form the new denominator. So it's exactly like we would with numbers, just we can't combine them to create a new numbers per se, we end up with this combination of them. So for example, if we had A on B multiplied by C on D, we times the top and the bottom just like we would normally, but A times C just gives us AC, and B times D just gives us BD. So in an example here, if we had simplifying this fraction, we've got 3 on M times M on 6. We times top and bottom, we get 3 times M, which is 3M, and we get M times 6, which is 6M, or M6. Generally, we do the number first, so it's 6M. So we're going to have this sort of 3M on 6M. The 3's will cancel out with the 6's, so we get the 1 on 2. We end up with half. A quick way to think about this is, as soon as you see something like this, you can cross-cancel. So if we've got an M on the bottom anywhere, and an M on the top anywhere, before we've even combined them, we can straight away go, all right, I can just cancel those out. And then diagonally, I've got a 3 and a 6, so I can go, well, 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 6 twice, so I've got 1 on 2, half is my answer. So I can do it in a single line by using that cross-multiplication process. Same thing's going to happen here. Remember, M squared is M squared on 1. So I can straight away look at that diagonal and go, it's an M squared on an M, so the 2, the squared will cancel. This will be gone. And I'll have 3 on 1, so I'm going to have 3M on 1, which is just 3M. So you can do that whole process if you aren't confident in seeing that first step. Otherwise, if you are, just jump straight to it by the cross process. In terms of division, to divide by a fraction, the easiest way to do it is we just multiply by the reciprocal. And we saw this in the index laws. We saw that reciprocal law is if we flip the fraction, we change the sign of the indexes. In this case, there is no indexes, so it doesn't matter, but the effect it has is we change the sign of the function. So if we reciprocate something divided by C on D and we reciprocate, we flip the fraction, it becomes multiplied by D on C. And then we can just do it exactly as we just did before. We end up with the A times D on B times C, we get AD on BC. So if we look at another example here, the 4 on N divided by 2 on N squared, we want to reciprocate the 2 on N squared part because we can't really do it like this. It's much, much quicker if we just flip and change the product. So we flip it to N squared on 2. From here, we can use our diagonal trick again. So we go cancel that, cancel the 2. I'm left with an N. I've got a 4 and a 2, so this will be a 2, this will be a 1. So I get 2N. And believe it or not, 2N. So like I said, if you need the extra steps, that's fine. If you're comfortable to see that cross process, jump straight to it. So for dividing fractions, we flip the fraction, which is reciprocate, and then we multiply by the reciprocated fraction. Time for some practice. There's a few here using a combination of things. In some cases, we're simplifying. Here, we're just expanding brackets. So this is our index law from before. Remember that this goes into both things. Goes into both things. Here, this is very similar to the example we just saw previously. We've got a whole bunch of reciprocation processes. Here we've got a combination of fractions times by fractions and fractions divided by fractions. So remember, we just reciprocate the entire thing and then go from there. And multiplying this is going to be very similar to what we've seen, maybe with a slightly added step to it. So answers will be up in 5 seconds. Pause the video, have a go at these questions.
Lightweight!
Answers are above. So, success criteria check. Can I accurately multiply and divide fractions using terms and common factors? Can I confidently reciprocate these functions using that reciprocating law where we change the divide to a times? And if the answer is yes, and if you got those questions from the last slide with minimal errors, all the errors you made are just simple calculator errors, then you're ticking that box, you're ready to move on. If not, you know what to do.